Welcome. It is 6:30. And City Council, Calexico Community Redevelopment Agency, Successor Agency, Calexico Financing Authority Special Meeting, April 10, 2013. It is 6:30 p.m. once again. And City Attorney, if we can have a report from our closed session.
Thank you, Mayor. The closed session report is as follows. Item A, direction was given, no reportable action was taken. Item B was removed by the council in its entirety and not discussed. And then also, just so the record can reflect, after closed session, the fire alarm was sounded in the building, and so for a portion of time during the meeting, everybody left City Hall until the building could be cleared for all of us to re-enter. So that is why the meeting is now, the open session is starting at 6:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lyons. City Clerk, please note all are in attendance except for Mr. John Moreno. He's not feeling well today. And we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I need an approval on the agenda, please. Motion?
I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor.
Do I have a second?
Second.
First by Mr. Hodge, second by Mr. Castro. Please vote. Thank you. Okay, announcements, public appearances, and public comments. Not to exceed 3 minutes. This is the time for the public to address the council on any item on the special meeting agenda. The mayor will recognize you, and when you come to the microphone, please state your name and place of residence for the record. While members of the public are encouraged to participate, it is unlawful to disturb or delay the council meeting with personal or slanderous remarks. Please direct your questions and comments to the City Council. I do not have any speaker forms. So, City Manager, did you want to make any opening remarks previous to starting? I always skip you.
No, ma'am, I have no.
Okay. This agenda is a special agenda, therefore there is no council comments. I guess we'll be discussing each item as we go along. First on our agenda under business items is item number 1, the approval of proclamation during the week of April 14 to the 20th, 2013 as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week. Want to hold on to that one? Yeah. Do you guys want me to read this? Okay, I guess I will. City Council Proclamation, National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, April 14 to April 20, 2013. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time that require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property. And whereas the safety of our police officers and firefighters is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the public safety communication centers throughout Imperial County. And whereas professional public safety telecommunicators are a vital link between citizens and victims and are the first and most critical contacts our citizens have with emergency services. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and emergency medical personnel by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, ensuring their safety, and whereas public safety telecommunicators from all communication centers from Imperial County have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each dispatcher has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year. Now, therefore, it is proclaimed that by the Mayor and the City Council of the City of Calexico, California, the week of April 14th to the 20th, 2013, to be National Public Safety Telecommunications Week in Calexico, in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and cause the seal of the City of Calexico to be affixed this 10th day of April, 2013. Thank you very much, and thank you to all of those individuals who work with our city, our dispatchers that we know are so important to the general welfare of the city. Thank you. Item number 2, discussion and or acknowledgement of single audit report for the year ending June 30, 2012. This is an item that we had on our last council meeting, and council wished that we have a special meeting today to be prepared with questions and staff is prepared to answer. So I believe that this item was requested by Mr. Kim. You're the one that asked for this item to be here today, Mr. Kim? You want to go ahead and start?
No, Madam Mayor, if I remember, it was Mr. Hodge.
Oh, okay.
And we are prepared, I have talked to Mr. Hodge, we are prepared to present a quick presentation that maybe hopefully will answer some of the questions
okay.
that anybody has.
Okay.
So we'll go through a quick presentation and then we'll answer any questions.
Thank you. Okay, so then I'm going to sit over there.
Yeah, who's going to, Gabby, can you help us, please? That way you can take the mic, or anybody. That way you can come to the mic. We just need somebody to flick through this.
He'll do it. He said he'll do it.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. We'd like to thank you for this opportunity to add a little clarity to some of the things that the Finance Department does as they are impacted by auditing work, and sometimes it seems it's in a cloud or in a shroud. And we'll just try to provide a little clarity to what has been going on with the audits, and also answer the specific questions that you may have regarding some of the findings. There are three. The single audit has three sections. It's the single audit is restricted only to the federal grants, U.S. federal grants that the city may be having reimbursement for already, or maybe they got as a new grant during the year. But any federal grant and any city that has a total of over $500,000 in federal grant awards for the year, that's all grants accumulated, has to undergo a single audit. And the single audit, just to give you a very quick background, back in the day, in the 60s and 70s, the different agencies that provided the grant funds used to go into the grantee agencies and do their work. And so what you had were sometimes 20 or 30 different auditors going into one agency, all looking at the same information. So they got smart, and they called all the people together and said, we're going to have what we call a single audit. And the single audit is where they hire an external auditor, just like we do for our regular financial statements, and that same auditor or another one, they could have a different auditor, but that auditor is to review only the federal grants and the data that is surrounding or part of the federal grants. So that's just to give you a little background. The single audit report, the one in particular that we're concerned with this evening, is for June ended June 30th, 2012. As a little historical perspective on that, I wasn't here then. And so the findings are, I'm happy to report them, but I'm not going to take any responsibility for how they got created. And I think that's important for the record. In addition, the federal single audit is divided into three pieces. And the three pieces, or the three sections, are the summary of auditors' results, and I'll go over that quickly. And then we have the financial statement findings, and then there's also a section for the federal awards and the, the question cost, if any. So what I'd like to do, if we can start the discussion, On page 7, if you have a single audit report, page 7 deals with that summary of the auditor's results. And to summarize the summary, our financial statements that we had the pleasure of listening to the very well-done audit report by Mr. Poon from Poon and McGeady, who did our financial statement audit. He advised us that we got an unqualified opinion. An unqualified opinion means that it's clean. There are no conditions attached to the financial statement audit. Doesn't mean that there weren't or aren't some things wrong with the Department of Finance or with the city's practices or some of the things that are happening in and around City Hall, but it does mean that the financial statements are fairly presented and that there are no material misrepresentations. Then they go on to say that there were some findings in internal control reporting. And in this case, from the financial statements, there were some material weaknesses, and later on we'll define what material weaknesses are. There were 2 of them, in fact, that we will be discussing, and there was also a thing called a significant deficiency, and we'll define what that is. There were no matters of non-compliance, which is very important. So we complied with everything that we were required to in terms of accounting rules and the law. The federal awards, there were no material weaknesses in the federal program in the single audit, and there was 1 significant deficiency. And we'll discuss that, and we'll discuss also in a bit the relationship between significant deficiencies and material weaknesses. The audit was, again, for the federal awards, similar to the financial statements in that it too was clean or unqualified. So we were very pleased to hear that both of those are fairly represented and that the material in the financial statements is, in fact, not misleading. There were no breaches in terms of reporting. There are sections in the so-called Bible for people who do federal audits. It's called Circular A-133, and that's from the Office of Management and Budget. And there were no breaches in that, and there were no violations in Section 510A, which deals with audits that are generally reviewed for fraud or misrepresentation. So none of that was the case in our federal audit. And there was one federal, just for information purposes, one federal award that amounted to $4 million, and it's 58% of the total that was audited. And this is also important. At the very bottom on page 7, it says the auditee qualified as a low-risk auditee under Section 530. That means that there were some risks or there weren't risks. In our case, there were some risks, so we are not a low-risk auditee. And that has some ramifications based on one specific audit, one specific federal award in the audit, I should say. Okay, let's go to the specific findings. In the findings for the financial statements, in finding number 1, 2012-01, it's internal control over financial reporting. That is the concern. And what the condition was is there was a finding that $1.2 million was not recorded in the capital assets. It's a piece of property that's out by the gun club, and that was not recorded at all in the capital assets. Pretty material piece of property in terms of value. It caused, what happened, the remedy to fix that is that we had to make an adjustment to the prior year financial statements. So the prior year, the ending fiscal year ending June 30th, 2011, we had to restate that to include $1.2 million in capital assets. And that cleans that up. But then again, as the auditors go through these findings, they tell you what the cause is. And in this case, I'll read this cause. The city did not properly follow its policies and procedures for evaluating, reviewing, and properly recording financial transactions arising from the transfer of capital assets to developers in the prior year. Pretty serious. Now, in all of these audits, the financial statement audits and the single audit, management is asked, not only asked, but advised that they should respond to these findings, which we did. And we pointed out, we being management who responded, we pointed out that there have been some significant organization changes in the city at the top, highest level in management. There have also been some significant changes in the number of staff that we have working in the city. We were understaffed in a lot of areas. Finance is one of them, but because all of the departments are feeders to the finance department, they too have some internal control problems, and it's basically because of the shifting around or losing staff. We have a plan. We're working on the plan. One of the things I can point to is that there were a lot of people involved in preparing journal entries. Now, I'm going to try to simplify this. Journal entries are accounting entries that accountants use to make entries that are not regularly made. If you run a payroll, the payroll has its entries into the books of record. The accounts payable, when the checks are cut, has its entries into the books of record. But the accountant, or the finance director for this matter, or anybody assigned to do journal entries, has the ability to prepare journal entries which go straight away into the books of record. They're allowed to impact the records. You can change cash, the value of cash. You can change the value of how much is expended for some certain expenditure. Mr. Kim, Councilman Kim at the last meeting mentioned fuel and oil. There are people in the organization outside of finance who make entries that affect fuel and oil. And if those entries aren't made properly, or they aren't made on time, or they aren't made at all, it will affect the books. So we have a plan that, in fact, consolidates and centralizes all of the journal entry functions into the finance department, and it will soon be only the accountant or the finance director or some other designee who in payroll we have that person doing it. But those will be the only people who can make these entries. There are no other people in the city who will be allowed to do that. We're evolving into that. It takes a while to get that process straightened out, but it's the only way we can get absolute control over the system. All right. Are there any questions? As long as we're on that, I'd be happy to answer any. Okay.
I prefer you just move forward.
Pardon me?
I prefer you just move forward.
Okay. All right. So enough said for that. We'll now move on to the next finding, which was 2012-02 reporting. The condition was that the city did not submit a single audit report and data collection form within 9 months of the fiscal year end. This was the 2010-11 fiscal year. It wasn't submitted until in July of 2012. The single audit is due no later than March 31st. That's 9 months after the end of the fiscal year. That's the statutory date that must be filed by. And for 2012, we made that deadline easily. And it's important to note that in our comments, we pointed out that the finance director left that year, or left in 2012, and before the audit was finished. So there was a lack of leadership there. There was nobody to take over and keep the audit going. And so it lagged and missed the deadline, as did the regular financial statements. As you know now, we have solved that problem. We have met all the deadlines. And we're very happy to have that as a start for the reform that we are putting into the system. There are a number of things that are still going on. There's reorganization within the finance department, other departments that are reorganizing, and this whole process is still evolving, and I think it's very important to mention that we are in that process trying to strengthen communication systems we're putting in new technology, and we're making a lot of changes. And I would tell you, certainly direct this straight to the council, there are a lot of changes that are going on that affect people, and people are not uniformly accepting of some changes. And certainly you are getting some feedback from people both inside and outside of city government. I can tell you from my 50 years in the business and all over the world that not everybody likes change. And I think you know that. And we're seeing it in spades here. I think that pretty much sums up management's response to that finding. So now I'll move on to 2012-03. Can we just swipe it? Okay. 2012-03 is the year-end close. There were a lot of things wrong in the year-end close. This particular page, this is page 11 on the document, on the single audit document. Page 11 states several conditions and several things that happened during the year-end close. When you have any organization our size, you have a pretty sophisticated close to go through, and that close sums up a lot of things, brings all of the accounts in balance, and gets ready to prepare the financial statements. And then the auditors typically come in, they look at the trial balance, the so-called trial balance, which is the focus of getting that's the file that is used to prepare the financial statements. We were not ready for them. The reason we were not ready for them, and this goes to the discussion of the control environment, and Mr. Poon from Poon and McGeady discussed this one at length with you, with the council when he did his presentation, but I'll repeat some of the things. The control environment was not there. We had to do approximately I want to say 250 to 300 entries to correct things. We were doing a cleanup operation while we were trying to close the year end. And when we found the magnitude of the cleanup activity, it was staggering. And unfortunately, not everybody participated. They couldn't participate. They didn't have the skills or the time to do it. So we had a very narrow group of people involved, and the auditors spent a lot of extra time in their work trying to help us sort this stuff out. But it did get done, but I must say it wasn't clean in terms of how it got done. But it's part of the cleanup, the activity that we've started since I got here, and it's part of the cleanup activity that I plan on continuing probably for a long while yet. So let me just discuss a couple things. This gets into the control. There was all this concern about internal controls, and it's all valid concerns. The control environment sets a tone for an organization, influencing the control consciousness of its people. It is a foundation for all other components of internal control, providing discipline and structure. All of those are key words: discipline, structure, management oversight. That is probably the highest level, and it's also the most important aspect of any good accounting system and the control over it. And we didn't have that kind of oversight for a long time. The other thing is risk assessment, and I think we're doing a better job of evaluating the risks and evaluating the things that are important and staying away from the trivia. We have to look at things in their priorities and look at the things that matter most when we do these financial statements. And all of the focus is how you get to the financial statements and what they look like. And I can proudly say that we're doing a much better job of that. And I'm very pleased with the outcome, and I think the auditors were very pleased too, even though they still had to write us up for this. Okay, let's move to Section 3, which is the federal awards and question cost. There was one item there that was particularly notable, and that is the 2012-04, that's page 13 of the document. And in this case, there is a thing called the Asset Forfeiture Fund in the police department, and I think the auditors and everybody felt like there was not enough control there, but unfortunately there were a couple of instances where transactions were made where we made some donations out of the fund, and the federal government monitors and provides guidance for any expenditures out of that fund. Can be a very helpful fund, and in this case, the city tried to make some donations for softball, and I can't remember what the other one was, but those were not, at the time, allowable costs. There's only a percentage, and I can't remember what the percentage is, that you can use for donations out of that fund, and we violated that, and we had to turn some money back. Fortunately, it wasn't very much money, but the fact is the principle is that we violated the rule. And we're doing things like centralizing the grant accounting into finance, and we're also making it a little stricter, quite a little stricter, to get grant expenditures made. So we're working very hard to get that taken care of and tighten that up. The management comments discuss one thing called allowability, and that really just puts a second review. By bringing the control and the functioning of the grants into finance in a central place, we can have somebody looking at the grant to determine whether or not an expenditure is allowable. We weren't always doing that because we didn't always have all the information we needed. Now we're getting that information. We even have a person in finance collecting all of the documents and all of the, excuse me, all of the information required to be able to monitor a grant and also be aware of what the grant standards and its allowances are for how you spend their money. And I'm happy to say that that one is looking much better now. We'd like a little more money in it, but we'll work on that with a little more diligence later. That's pretty much the report itself. Now, going back to the definition of the significant deficiencies and the material weaknesses, a material weakness, I lost my definition. Okay, you have it. Thank you. A material weakness, I'll read this and comment as we go. A material weakness, when reported by an auditor, suggests that a misstatement could occur. If a material weakness remains undetected and unresolved, a material misstatement could eventually occur in an entity's financial statements. And then they give an example, and I think this is easily understood. If you have, for example, a $10 million overstatement in revenue, it would be quite material if your sales in that organization were 50 million. That's like a 20% hit. So you have to look at something being material in relation to the whole. The piece that's material has to be related to the whole. When auditors do an audit, they assess the risk of doing an audit, and they have a thing called materiality, which they have a calculation. It's a very sophisticated statistical calculation that they perform to establish the floor for materiality. That is, they're saying that if materiality, for instance, is calculated to be $100,000, they will probably not touch or try to sample anything below the $100,000, but they'll sure look at anything they can that's over. That's all they're saying. So that pretty much describes a materiality and material weakness. Now, a significant deficiency is a deficiency or a combination of deficiencies in internal control that is less severe than a material weakness, yet important enough to merit attention by those charged with governance. So a significant deficiency doesn't necessarily have this relational thing like a material weakness, but it can be one of them, one significant deficiency or a number of significant deficiencies. If there are enough of them, they can make something very materially weak. So, and an example of a significant deficiency might be you don't have proper signature authority on invoices. In our case, in the city, we have the finance director is allowed to sign for all invoices or requisitions up to $3,000. Beyond that, the city manager has authority to sign up to $10,000, and beyond that, the city council, it has to go to city council and for approval by the council. So that's your control. Now, if you didn't have that kind of control, you'd have a significant deficiency. And you'd probably even have a material weakness, because that's pretty bad. If you have another popular one is segregation of duties. If you have somebody doing a bank rec, they shouldn't be the same person doing the printing of the checks and signing of the checks. you could have collusion with yourself or collusion with somebody else there that could cause a problem. So that's the definitions of those. And I think that pretty much covers it. I'd be happy to answer questions. I'm ready.
Yeah, I think at this point we're ready to answer questions. And by the way, that was the short version, okay? Yeah. You imagine the long one?
Thank you, Frank. I'm just kidding. Thank you, John.
That's it?
Well, I would imagine that, I guess we're going to start with questions. And I believe that Mr. Hodge would be the more appropriate to start with.
Please allow me to get this in order.
Do you want to go first?
Is
there anyone else that would like to go first? Because Mr. Hodge is getting organized. Mr. Castro or Mr. Kim, would you like to have any questions answered? He's not prepared yet.
My notes are scattered. This, all right.
Okay. So I guess it's
Anyone else
anyone's...
wants to go first? Okay.
Anytime you're ready, gentlemen.
9, 7, it's 6, 5, it's coming. 2, 2. Okay. Well, I'm missing a couple of pages here, but I have it on the report you gave us, but I don't have it properly underlined, but let me see. First of all, Mr. Quinn, I want to thank you for this report. I know it's extra work, but I think it's important. Yes, we had the consultant, and I was paying attention to the best that I could, and I thought I did a good job. But the way he presented it, this is my reception to it, it was relatively smooth, and for me, there was not any ringing in my head about any red flags. And then when I got this as an acknowledgement, which seemed just to be a regular procedure under consent, I looked at this carefully, and to me, there were lots of red flags or concerns. When I read about material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. And yes, we had this gentleman here, but I think it's important as a city government, as a council, and if I may say, as a family, that we can converse and dialogue and understand each other. And you've, for me, with that presentation, you've clarified many of the areas. Let me see, though. I might be repeating. And what you're beginning to, as far as quell my concerns, is because it appears by your expertise that we are on track in correcting these problems. But in general, you would agree we had some problems here, some real problems, material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. So you've clarified about, I had it transfer of capital assets to developers. I wondered what that was. You said it was a gun club and it was not recorded. Why would it not be recorded? I need to learn here, and I don't mean to micromanage, but to understand, why would it not be recorded?
Councilman Hodge, that's an excellent question, and I think it gets honestly to the heart of where things were when I got here, and that is there are some people who really don't have the discipline, and they weren't given any guidance, and honestly there's some of those same people who even though they may not have guidance, they're being paid to do those kinds of things with or without guidance, they're supposed to be self-guided because they're in a position of authority. And we didn't have anybody in those positions of authority to push those things through. And they were just done, they were done sloppily. That's all I can say. I don't have any other way to describe it.
And at this point in time specifically, sir, how have you corrected that?
We are taking, first of all, that person will no longer handle the fixed asset or the capital assets for the next year. And we will have more than one person reviewing that particular activity. You have to have, for assets, the physical assets, you're looking at $40 million approximately. And you have to have more than one set of eyes on it. And I think that would take care of the problem.
Okay. That's 8. That's 1, 10, 11. On page 11, the city had not properly closed and reconciled its general ledger. Can you again elaborate, reconciled its general ledger?
Okay, the general ledger is that's the focal point of all of the books of record. There are so-called subsidiary ledgers in places like payroll, when whoever's taking care of the payroll will manage all of the accounts within the payroll system, both for the salaries and the benefits and all the overtime and the hours and all of that is managed in the sub-ledger, if you will. There are the general ledger is in the accounting system is the master. It is where all of your control accounts are.
Okay.
And if something doesn't balance going in, it's not going to balance coming out, and your general ledger will tell you that. So the control account doesn't equal the sub-ledger. Somebody has made a mistake along the line, not necessarily maliciously, but an oversight. And you can't, one person may have an oversight, but you have to have somebody behind them to approve things or review things so that that oversight can be caught and corrected.
Okay. And again, would it probably lead to wrong person taking that responsibility or not enough people overseeing it?
Not enough oversight.
Not enough oversight. And we're correcting that.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, no oversight. Okay. Please indulge me here. Allowable cost. The one about the asset forfeitures, about money that was used out of there that should have not been. How did that happen?
The asset forfeiture fund is managed primarily by the police department because it is where it's the collection place for drug busts and the seizures of assets, cars, money, that sort of thing, and it's very, very difficult to control. It is federally regulated, but not so much federally controlled, and the federal government has guidelines on how you spend, how much you can spend in certain categories of things. You're allowed a lot of latitude, but there's only a certain percentage that you can use for donations.
I see.
And this went over that limit.
I think if I may, it also, we hate to keep repeating it, but it also goes into the issue of oversight. And as John has mentioned, on the internal controls, you want to have 1 or 2 people involved in a lot of these procedures, so you don't have just one person doing it, because if they fall and they don't understand what they're doing, they do something wrong or whatever, you have nobody else to then look it over and say it's wrong. So for example, in your journal entries, you would have your person who prepares the journal entry, you would probably have a senior person looking at it, and then you have your finance director signing off on it. That way you have 3 people looking at this stuff. Same thing with asset forfeiture, we've talked about that, and there needs to be some more oversight on it. We need to put together some guidelines in reference to the procedure for the expenditure of those funds and who has the authority to spend up to what, so that there is more oversight as the procedure goes, rather than just having one person making that decision as to where it gets spent.
And so this was a problem in the past. We realized that, and now we're making steps to correct it.
That is correct.
I don't want to nitpick here. You know, I just find this important just amongst us to go over this, so I appreciate this. Now, you've talked about qualified people in the right positions doing the right thing. Mr. Quinn, please respond to this. I have heard, and that's all it's hearsay, that, and I've been told that there really is a need for an accountant. And I have been told that the person that's doing a position of accounting is not qualified as an accountant. How do you respond to that, sir?
Well, first, I'll be the first to tell you we need an accountant, and I've been trying to find somebody to come here to be an accountant.
We need an accountant.
Yes, and it doesn't. We need 2 accountants. We have 1, and that person that you're referring to is in fact a qualified accountant. Degree, college degree, approximately 30 units of accounting, which is the standard for the state, and 30 units plus the degree gets you qualification for the CPA exam if that's what you want to do. So he's fully qualified.
All right.
And I have had to rely on him a lot. He is our only accountant.
You've said that, and that was just my concern or wanting a clarification. So I believe you, sir. If you say he's qualified, so that takes care of that problem. City Manager, I really believe we need another accountant.
Well, I think that there's a couple of issues involved with that one. Is we are reviewing the department, first of all, to find out what the qualifications of the individuals are. I think that just throwing another accountant there does not solve the problem. The problem is we need to identify and assess our department to see what the qualifications of our people are and what they can and cannot do. We believe that there is a need for some help in the closing of the books and maybe some other special requirements that we have, which we are, as John mentioned, we are in the process of trying to find somebody who we can contract out. In my opinion, and John can speak for himself, I don't think you necessarily need a full-time accountant. You need a person to come in and assist with some of the special functions that the accounting department does, such as the closing of the books, such as maybe some special functions in the audit. But then we really need to assess our people, because some people do not come up to the qualifications of that particular position. So that's what we're doing. We're assessing the individuals in those positions to try to provide maybe some training for these people to be able to reach the qualifications that are needed to fill that position. I don't know if I'm going to round this, but again, I don't believe that by throwing an accountant in there that solves your problems. And John, you can speak for yourself.
Shucks. He's right. We could have a contractor. We could have somebody who was a specialist in year-end closings. We could have a specialist who prepared schedules for the auditors.
And they don't have to be an accountant?
Well, yeah, you should be an accountant.
Okay.
But I think Oscar's alluding to, is it a full-time? Maybe not a full-time position, but one or more people who would come in on a specialized basis.
But an accountant?
Yes, and definitely a qualified accountant.
Okay, because that was my concern, and that's what I've gathered in a sense, but you're clarifying that there was a need for more expertise or more somebody that had that accountant expertise. And if we're going to solve this, we have to take the right steps, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. That's correct. I'll give it up at this moment and allow my fellow colleagues to ask any questions.
Okay, just for clarification, we are only discussing item, sorry, the item with regard to the audit, which is item number 2, so we're still going to go over the revenue and expenses and cash on the next one. Okay, Mr. Kim, did you want to make have some questions for item number 2?
Yes, I do. First of all, if I conclude my question is, we talking about the 2 accounting, we're gonna need a staff, we short staff then? Is we gonna, we open the position?
Well, again, I think that before we start throwing positions out, I think we need to assess the department, like any department. John is brand new. He's been here, how many months, John? 9 months he's counted now. So he's past his honeymoon period. So, but we need to assess the department and the qualifications of the personnel in that department in order to be able to come up with a solution to resolve it.
Okay, so my question is that any personnel in the departments cannot do their job for that positions? In order to hire accounting, maybe they have to have accounting degrees or whatsoever. Well, but our staff is being there, been working, and that paperwork, probably they are not knowledgeable, or they are not right the assessment, or they are direct to do something different way. That's why probably not been done. So is there any chance you can use our staff there to meanwhile to fill the positions? Not the position, but at least to fill their job.
How do you want to do this?
Councilman Kim, let me try to answer that this way. We have a need, because of the number of transactions and the type of activity that we have. It's a government, remember. We have a lot of funds, a lot of grant funds, and those require a lot of very special attention. And the thing that differentiates what an accountant does versus what an accounting technician or accounting specialist, or call them what you will, the thing that differentiates the two is that the accountant is able to look at a transaction and view it as it is going to impact the financial statements. Impact it in terms of timing, impact it in terms of, is this a generally accepted accounting practice? Is this part of best practices in accounting? Does it meet all of the accounting rules that we have to live by from the Government Accounting Standards Board? Like, the accountant looks at it from a much more global point of view, even the simplest transaction. Where the accounting technician is really, they enter the data. If you have a nice, expensive software system, it will edit the data for you. And in our case, we don't have that much sophistication, so a lot of that is left undone and requires more review at the end of the transaction. And that requires more accountant-level people. But for the front end, processing invoices, processing checks, I don't want to demean the position. Those are very important positions, but they don't require the same level of expertise that the accountant has.
Well, I believe that making all the projections or view, like you were saying, is like the narration in the budget report, it should be come from you, not from the accountant, isn't it?
Councilman Kim, most of the reports that come to council are reports that I prepare. And they come off of the trial balance. The thing that will make them maybe questionable in some areas, I know you've had some questions, it would be the timing on the entry. Maybe we lag behind because people take off, they're sick, or we don't have documents, or any number of excuses we can throw out, but they aren't caught up in the system yet. But it doesn't mean that it's bad or good, it just means they aren't there.
Okay, so that means like we have accounting technicians we have is not accountable to be working on as the accounting.
I don't want to comment on that, honestly.
Okay, the other one is we have a lot of I think a lot of areas Mr. Haji was being touched it, which is we are a lack of the information, lack of the readiness, and especially we have reconciliations if it's not there. And I believe the last meeting I was mentioning that even today I don't see we have a reconciliation of our bank account. So without knowing the clear pictures, how we're going to spend, how we're going to make the projections. And also, I've been walking into the financial department to try to grab the several information, and I believe our bookkeeping is not current. And I'm going to go for that one at the number 3, which is with the budget. And it's been audit has been picking on us like last year's, which is like 11-12 budget we're talking. But right now, I don't see we've been fixed it. That's the issues I see here. And reconciliation is not there. Even last budget the report, there was no bank reconciliations. And they're saying the page, I believe, 12, say failure to maintain proper internal control over financial reporting. I think we still have. Limits the city's ability to report financial result accurately and timely. I think we still not correct yet. So to keep saying it's a reconciliation, and page 12 I'm talking, and operating procedure, and many of them are not in accordance with the generally accepted accounting principle. So we're not following the rules. But I believe the way I see it today, and even our book, is always not bringing it to the right number. That means this audit is not fixed yet. And the page 11, again, the city had not properly closed and reconciled the general, the legion. Another one coming. I think Mr. Hachi was talking. It's keep on going and lack of the control. So you were saying is we're gonna fix, but I don't see even yet. Well, let's say June 30, 2012. Probably before the Mr. Quinn you coming in, probably right after the Mr. Rodriguez took over the city manager, but we're still doing the same. Do we have really fixed it? That's well, the audit report it came out some things, some issues. When we have an audit, the purpose of the audit, we're gonna re-evaluating ourselves which areas we're gonna be lack of it, so we have to fix it, that we can accomplish the right budget practice and the right governing project practice we're supposed to have it. But the audit is coming in for the several findings, but it's not been, I don't see it's been there. So is there any typically areas we've been fixed?
I think what I got to say is that, remember, you're looking at an audit that's over a year old. Mr. Quinn came in July. So he's going to be responsible for the coming audit. This audit that you have before you is a prior administration. You had a different finance director at the time.
Yes, I understand. That's why I'm saying that compared to the audit that time to June 30th, we had a lot of issues. That issue still existing. That's my issues there. So when we have an audit, a lot of finding. When we have a finding, we have to fix it. But it's not been fixed. That's the issue I have. And if we have fixed the issues, let me know what we've been fixed.
Okay, and in the audit itself, we are required to provide a response as to how we're going to fix it. And the response on how we're going to fix it actually has come from Mr. Quinn. He was on board after the finish of the close of the year. But what happened in that year, obviously, is not his responsibility. It was a former finance director. So in order to be fair, I think we've got to, when the next single audit comes on, that's Mr. Quinn's. That's not the prior finance director. This is the prior finance director. And if we follow what we said we were going to do to fix this, you will see it at the next single audit. If you don't see it, then that's under Mr. Quinn's watch.
So we still have a lot of issues, but it's going to be fixed.
Councilman Kim, all I can tell you is I've been in the business for 50 years. I was a partner in the biggest accounting and consulting firm in the world. I have practiced with some of the biggest and some of the smallest of clients. I know what I'm doing, and for those people who say I'm not doing right things, they aren't looking close enough. I know I'm implementing the processes and the procedures as quickly as I can, and I did mention earlier in the presentation the reluctance to change, and I'm dealing with that. Now, I'm doing everything possible to get this job done. If I can't get it done, you'll know it quickly, because I'll go back into retirement. I don't need this.
Okay. So you're still doing it, but I still found the last of things you said is going to be next. Also next, the audit will show up as much, this much is bad, as much as. We're still in the process of fixing. If for that.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Well, we're still in the process of fixing the audit reports, which is like whatever finding is fixing one by one.
Yeah, we are attacking these things simultaneously. It isn't a sequential thing. We're doing many different things. But again, it's not going to be done overnight for most of these things. A lot of them, as I mentioned earlier when we were talking about internal controls and management oversight being a very, very key item in internal controls, we have to change the attitude and the mentality and the environment. And that is the most difficult thing to change, and that doesn't get changed for a long time. It takes a long time to make people change like that.
Yes, I've been seeing that the audit report said efficiency, we are lack of the efficiency of our job. I agree with you. But one big bothers me. I believe our council agree with it, which is that this audit report has to be presented to the council to approve. Then, after we approve, that should be sent it. Not to send it first, the rectifying by us. That's one of the big concern. Why council here just rubber stamping, just asking several questions, look nice, but they already done damaged. It shouldn't be that way. It should be present to the council, whatever issues coming, the litigating with the council, what's going on, so what we're going to do. After council acknowledges that one, council has to approve this audit report sent to the governments. If we didn't do that. And we are not here to rubber stamping for the administration. We have to make the decision for the benefit of our citizens. But we are here to just rubber stamping what you've done. Okay, good done. Oh, good done. Or good job. Or said, okay, we have some little questioning, we look nice, and then anyways, it's been done anyways. It shouldn't be this way. My big concern is, again, we shouldn't be rectifying. If any audit report, we should be taking care of ourselves first before send it.
Just a comment that we hear what you're saying, and I think John has already mentioned it. As we go through the assessment of the department, and as we go through the consistent reorg, if you want to call it that, everybody thinks that a reorg can be done overnight. And obviously, as we go through the different departments, we're constantly reorganizing. Sometimes we make a move that potentially we have to come back and say, you know, that didn't work. We're going to have to change it. So it's not a static procedure that we go through in reviewing our organization. It's something that we should constantly be doing. And one of the biggest things, as John mentioned, in the whole organization is obviously attitude of the organization. What kind of attitude do we have in the organization? Are we a go-get-em organization or not? And that has a lot to do with it. And so as we assess the organization and the department, in this particular case, the finance department, yes, we're assessing the personnel. And there potentially could be some changes because obviously, if personnel are not qualified, then we have to assess that and we have to take action. So, you know, as John was saying, we're moving as fast as we can, but some of these issues did not happen overnight. They happened over a fairly long tenure, and that tenure wasn't under Mr. Quinn, and that's not to say we're not going to correct them. Of course we're going to correct them. And like I said, I will hold Mr. Quinn to that when the next single audit comes, because that will be under his watch.
Well, I was not intending to give the hard time to Mr. Quinn. I understand it wasn't anything engaging his practice because this one people here coming in. I understand that. But my understanding is one is audit is report send us to rectifying instead of approving. They're supposed to be send us to be further sending to the governments. That's my issues. The other issues is I like to see as soon as possible to fixing all those issues. I'm not asking he's responsible because he's the audit. And what I'm asking is this audit is there and the lots of issues we still not addressed. That's what I was concerned with.
Right, and we understand that, Mr. Kim, and we're certainly going to address them in as short a time as we can. The issue with sending it up to the state is because, again, when it's brought before you, it's an acknowledgement. We can't change the report. The report is what it is. All we can say is this is how we're going to correct it. And our concern is that we need to get it to the state by March 31st. If we don't get it to the state by March 31st, then there's other ramifications that occur. So I understand what you're saying, and we will move forward as fast as we can to correct them. And again, it's an acknowledgement, it's not an approval, because we cannot change the reports. The reports are what they are. That's why they're done by a third party as an independent party. We got your message. We will correct it.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Kim, no more questions on that item?
Not an audit. I think I already addressed it. Like Mr. Rodriguez said, it's a report we can change it because we sent it already. But at the same time, I try to addressing the issues of how we can do it. And thank you, Mr. Quinn. I'm sorry to give you a hard time, but it's my job to the diligent to the community.
Okay, Mr. Castro.
Yes, I'm concur with Mr. Mayor Pro Tem Bill Hash and also Mr. Kim. I believe they make the majority of the questions. And, but I had one question on the cash and balance.
We're doing the audit right now. Yeah, we're doing this audit right now.
That's next.
Oh, this is the next issue.
Single audits.
Oh, okay. Well, no question on this one. They already cover all the questions.
Are you sure?
I'm gonna wait for this. Yes.
I just wanted to make a comment, Mr. Quinn. What we have talked about, I know that I've had conversations with you and with our city manager in the past about how everything functions in this organization, and the fact that you are looking towards centralizing everything within this building here in the finance department for finance activity that occurs in different departments. I think that's the best idea. In the past, when I was employed at the Office of Education in El Centro, that's the way they had that, where there was one office that maintained all records, and they were the ones that said the yes or the no. And so I always wondered when I came here and I saw the way things were set up here, I thought that that was different, and it didn't look like it was working. So as far as centralizing, I am with you on that. I totally agree on that. And I know that there's been a lot of questions to you about fulfilling the responsibility of continuing to clean up. But I know, because we consistently have conversations, that that's what you've done since you've gotten here, is clean up, unfortunately. So thank you very much for all the hard work that you have done. It's obvious that with the work that we're seeing now and the timeliness and all the shifting and moving around, that there's a lot of work happening in that department. So as you said, unfortunately, there's a lot of individuals that naturally sometimes resist change, but it should happen. It's necessary. We deserve that as a community and as administration. So thank you very much on that presentation. I don't know if you're going to stand there for the next items, I guess, which is item number 3.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
we'd like, if at all possible, this time around to acknowledge the report.
That's correct. Okay. Item number 2 then being that, Mr. Hodge, would you like to entertain a motion?
Yes, I'll entertain this motion to acknowledge this report.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
Do I have a second?
I
For
have a
acknowledgement?
second.
Okay, please vote. Acknowledging of the single audit report ending June 30th, 2012. Okay, thank you. Item acknowledged, 4-0. Item number 3 on our business items is discussion and or acknowledgement of February 2013 monthly report of revenues, expenses, and cash. Who asked for this item? Is that you, Mr. Kim? We usually want to start with the person that requested that the item be brought.
I'll give the other councilmen to deal in the issues first.
Were you
Then
the,
I'm
were you
gonna pick up the whatever they didn't pick up.
you were the person that requested this item to be brought?
Yes, I understand
Yes.
that. But is there any council gonna give the chance to the council to bring their finding or their questioning? Whatever they didn't do it, I'm gonna pick it up because I don't want to talk all the whole night by myself.
We brought this item here today and had a special session because you requested that, Mr. Kim. I believe it would be more appropriate if you started.
I made the motion. I made the motion too, and then I requested special meeting, especially. This is for the second. Actually, we were talking about the closed session one. Was a special interest was for me to bring it. But this one was we already had last meeting. We're gonna have a special meeting to bring this one at the special meeting.
Okay.
So I give the chance to other council members to
Mr.
bring it
Hodge
first.
doesn't appear to be ready. Are you ready, Mr. Castro, with any questions?
Yes, I have one question.
Okay. So we'll start with Mr. Castro then. Just one question?
Net cash imbalance.
What page?
I don't see no page, but it's. I don't see. No. It's one of the.
He was talking about city Calexico cash balance report.
Emergency services?
Cash balance reports. He's talking.
Cash.
Cash balance report. After I think it's in the middle.
See? Are we on the same page? Bill Hush?
I'm sorry, what page?
Mr.
Towards this report here, the third to last.
Yeah, my question is, what I read here, it says here, general fund in measure H, we have
One number.
right here, the second, 101.
No,
general
102, 101.
102. Yes. That's include
General fund,
we're
measure,
talking about
okay.
general fund in measure H. My question is, do we have a separate account for each general fund in measure H, or are you working including both accounts? That's my question.
I have a question though.
But,
When
yeah.
you're saying accounts, are you saying bookkeeping accounts or bank accounts?
Bank accounts, or where you guys get the taxes or the fund for those issues, for those funds. It all depends. It's all depends. It has to be, I'm not sure about that, but that's the reason I ask you. It has to be different accounts, or are those goes together? That's my questions.
Okay, that's a good question, Councilman Castro. We have what is known as a pooled and sweep account for our banking. We have, to answer your question directly, one bank account, but in the general ledger, the accounts are separate in the funds. So we're tracking the general fund in one fund number and the major H in another, but they're both in one bank account.
Let's say, like right now, you guys are gonna help recreation with a Measure H. If that funds or money, that money is gonna come out from Measure H. That mean it's separate from general fund. That's what I want to understand.
On our books, they're separate. In the bank account, if we had, for example, in Fund 101, which is our general fund, if we had $1,000, just for sake of conversation, and in the Major H, which is another fund, Fund 102, if we had, say, $2,000, we better have $3,000 in the bank account, because it would be the sum of both of those accounts.
Yes. My question is because a general fund is 101, the number of the account, and here said 102, they mentioned general fund and Measure H. That's the reason.
I see the difficulty there. And that's a good thing. That's a good comment. We will make sure we keep that separate in our conversations because they are separate accounts.
Okay, thank you. That's it. Well, until now, my colleagues can ask more questions.
I had some notes.
Okay, so you're ready now? You want to be next? Okay.
What I would like to see in the future for better explanation and comprehension is, I know it's more work, but provide a detailed report from each department, revenues and expenditures. Does that make sense, what I'm requesting?
Yeah, and actually it's in there. Your detail is in the report from every department. You want to show them where it's in the report?
I don't have the report.
On the monthly financial statements?
Yes. If you look at the, let's take a little whirlwind tour of the financial statements. That's my wife calling. We have the revenue. Revenue doesn't always have a department. General purpose revenue, like sales tax and property tax, is used by everybody. So you don't see a department for that. So it's difficult to pin down revenue by department, except in the case of fees where the building department charges fees for permits and so on. So the real crux of the problem is you want to look at the expenditures. And if we go at the end of the staff report, we see a revenue report. The staff report is, I don't know, 7 pages long. And then there are some charts at the end of the staff report. Talks about non-general fund revenue, and it has a chart about halfway down the page. Then after that starts there are some detailed, they look like this. Those are the detailed line items for every single account in the revenue and expenditure accounts.
Okay.
And it's by department, and especially with expenditures, which can be identified clearly by department.
Okay, that's it for right now. Thank you.
That's all? Let me ask you this, Mayor.
Yes.
Yes, on the same page, on the account 217, developers deposit, it says $57,000, that's it? That's all we have on
For the
cash and balance?
For the month of February, no? Oh, no, that's a balance.
Year-to-date, what we've actually received, I don't think that's the budget.
What page?
What page? Well, there's no page, but net cash and balance by February 28, 2013.
This last 3 pages.
Fund report.
The
Is that
the
part of
last,
the fund report?
the last 3 pages
Okay,
from
it's
the
part of the
top.
fund, of the funds. There's probably a balance in the fund. And that would be the balance as of this date.
Yes.
Whatever we receive from developers, that would be your balance. The last 3 pages are your balances on your fund accounts.
Yeah, those are fund balances.
Yes. Net cash balance.
And which one were you concerned about?
I'm concerned about 217 account, the
Well-
developers deposits.
Okay. Developers' deposits, that's one of the items that we've been doing a lot of cleanup. When we started that, there were, a couple hundred items there, and they amounted to about $2 million.
Uh-huh.
And we've moved those out or moved them to a different place because a lot of them are well over 5 years old and were no longer liabilities. And what's left is a balance of $57,000 in that fund. And actually, at the end of this fiscal year, that fund will disappear. We have a better way of tracking developer deposits, and primarily that's an example of something that should have a sub-ledger maintained offline from the general ledger, and the general ledger, that would only be an account that tracks the total of everything in the sub-ledger. So if you have $2 million in 100 accounts over here in my computer, when I go to the general ledger, I should have that number in that account.
But you said 100 accounts?
We had over 100 accounts.
Over 100 accounts, we just, until today, until February 28th, we have 57,000?
We have $57,000, but we also, that 100 accounts or over 100 accounts that we had totaled at that time over $2 million. So we have cleaned that up and moved those items out into cash or other places, and what's remaining is $57,000.
When you say other places, can you tell me where are those other places?
Other accounts.
Other accounts?
Yes.
And Oscar, can you explain to us that money goes to Mr. Quinn? He said to others accounts. Can you tell us how can the city of Calexico spend that money? Because too many accounts. I would like to know.
Too many fund accounts, or?
Yes. I want to know because Mr. Quinn, he mentioned a number. I believe $2 million.
Yes.
Yes. How can we spend that money? I mean, in so many accounts, and are those money from RDA? I mean, there's.
No, let me try to answer this way, and maybe I'm off base here, but the developer deposits are the deposits that are required by developers when we have agreements, and they file a deposit, kind of like with Grand Plaza on the legal and so on. And I don't know if you're thinking maybe developer impact fees or not.
Yeah, that's what
Are you thinking developer impact fees? Okay, developer impact fees are something else. So we have
This is
to.
different
So
account
yeah,
than
so because I'm looking at you and you're thinking $57,000 is not a lot of money. You're right. Developer impact fees are a lot more, but that's a different item, a different revenue stream.
Oh, okay.
So we can point out the different developer impact fees, but this is just the deposit a developer makes when we reach an agreement and we say, we're going to do environmentals and we're going to get a third-party consultant and it's going to cost $32,000. We make them put that money up front before, so that we have the money there, so when we contract the third party, we have the money from the developer and we're not taking that out of our pocket. So I think you're thinking developer
It's a
impact
different
fees.
Impact fees and this one, right?
Correct. They're two different things.
May I just interject real quick? So what you're saying is that this one here, line item 217, is kind of treated like a trust fund, maybe even?
That's correct.
Trust account?
That's correct.
That's it.
Okay, that's all? You sure? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you to give me the microphones.
If I may, Mr. Kim, if I may take a minute to maybe further address Mr. Castro's question. If you go to the impact fees, if you go to the third page, you'll see, for example, the impact fees for water, $5.4 million. And I think you were looking for a bigger number than 53,000 because you were thinking maybe it was impact fees. Impact fees are a lot larger. So if you look at these, you'll go through there and you'll spot the impact fees. It'll say actual impact fees. So like, for example, 512, impact fees water. So you'll notice that that one has, $5.4 million. So yeah, there's a big difference between the deposit that we're using for a third-party recovery for if we contract a consultant versus the impact fees that they pay when they start the project.
So now I have a permit to start? Sorry, sir. Thank you. So it looks like I have to have a little practice of my brain, cutting rust. Okay, where is I think it's cash balance report Mr. Castro was asking. I think same on page 601, medical insurance. We have a balance $995,000 for, okay, $995,485.
Can you tell us where you are, Mr. Kim, so we can follow?
Beg your pardon?
Where are you?
Cash balance report, same as Mr. Castro was asking.
Oh, same page?
Yeah, and then 601. They have almost $1 million balance, cash balance, but I don't find anything from the report to justifying the way or how. I don't see any numbers here in the pages.
Well, the fund report, and John, you can maybe jump in on the detail. The fund report gives you the net. So that balance that is in there is a balance that's accumulated over time.
Yes, but I don't see that 601 in the report. And in the budget report, I don't see any movement on there.
Go ahead, John.
Councilman Kim,
I think that we all, as the council wants to follow where you guys are at. Where are you at?
601.
if you look on if you look in the back on the fund report, there are some 600 accounts. Those are funds actually, and those are
Which pages?
It's on the very last page.
Net cash balances.
Your fund
Yes.
balance is the last three pages of the report, of the staff report.
Yeah, so the last
The very
page
last
is
page.
601, $995,000.
If you look, there's 601 through 610. Those are what we call accounting internal service funds, and the internal service funds were eliminated during the cleanup that we did this last year. But we can't, because there were already entries in them and because they carry over, these balances do, we won't see those disappear completely until the end of this fiscal year. So those really are inactive funds, and you'll see them probably on the expenditure, you'll see them on the expenditure report, maybe.
What page?
But they're, I don't want to say they're inconsequential, they just aren't active anymore because we don't.
So we don't pay the medical insurance then? So we
Yeah.
don't pay the medical insurance. I don't see the medical
Okay.
insurance pay expenses here.
I think what he's looking for is your revenues and your expenditures for your medical fund.
Yeah.
Because obviously this is a net of
Right.
many years of what's been happening. This is a balance.
That's a balance. Yes, I understand. But where is the money we're spending? We supposed to pay every month our medical bill.
That is correct, and
And I don't
hopefully.
see any in the report here.
Okay, in the financial report, there's expenditures for the expenses and the revenues. You want to point
Yeah.
that out, John?
There is no revenue, really. The medical insurance, we set up a reserve, and we work with the medical consultants every year, and we agree upon an amount of money that is set aside for every employee who's insured. And the total for that is around $2 million right now. And that is part of the payroll that over each pay period that is expensed. So in the payroll, you will see a medical insurance expenditure in the expenditure report that covers that expense. But that $2 million is just set up there as a reserve account. It's not revenue.
Well, I'm not talking about revenue. I'm not accountant, but I know revenue expenditure. I'm asking the expenditure. What is expenditures here? We have it right now, so approving the budget or the expenditure is not there.
Councilman Kim, the total expenditures for the year most likely will be around $1.6 million to $1.8 million.
I'm not asking about the whole year. I'm talking about the February 28th, the expenditure sections. I don't see any expenditures hour for the medical insurance pay.
If you look at each department and look at
What departments?
any department, any department that has an employee, you will see an account there for medical insurance.
I don't see here.
If you go to the expenditure portion of it,
On page 2.
Page
sorry,
2?
No, I'm sorry. Page 3, where it begins with personnel services, and then it starts about fire. And that almost halfway down, you'll see where it says workers' comp, unemployment, life insurance. That's what you're talking about, right?
right, and if you look at the different departments, you will see that there is an expenditure for group insurance, and that number is 51,009. So as you go through each different department, you'll find 51,009 is group insurance.
But they were setting as a 101, not the 601. Supposed to be fund for the 601.
As I mentioned, the 601 means nothing. It's an inactive account, an inactive fund, I should say.
Yeah, the 601 is the fund. You're looking for the actual expenditure. It's under the expense under each department. And we have personnel services, and in there it talks about the regular hours, full-time, and then the benefit structure. You have other earnings, retirement, Social Security, group insurance, workman's comp, unemployment, life insurance. They're all there. So, and the number that you key in on, because you have the department number, which could be 1120, 1110, 1140, that's the department number. And then you have the fund number, which could be a 101, which is a general fund, or you start getting specific funds, which are different than the 101. And then you have the account number, which is the 51009. 51009 identifies that expenditure is for group insurance.
So they're using different fund number. The 601, I have a here report that today I pulled out from the help from the staff. 601 expenditure fund, they have, last year we spent $2.7 million for the not this one, okay. Oh, here. Last year we spent the $2 million, and this year, same time, we spent the $700,000. So what that means, we're not paying last year we paid about $2 million about this time. And this year, we only paid the $718.
For what, Mr. King?
For the
I think-
insurance.
Can we see that?
Sure.
Yeah.
Question, John, is the
I
distribution?
don't know, I gotta see this.
Maybe the distribution.
Payroll, it's up to date, it should be $700,000 or $800,000.
Okay, I have to take a look at those documents that he has.
I got explained from the Mr. Ricardo was they are not implemented in the account. So what that means, we have a book account, we're not implementing.
Mr. Kim, you don't understand how the allocation works. That's all I can say. We have $2 million a year, and we put that in a reserve account. It's not revenue. We have to put it in a reserve. And we take that $2 million and we allocate it out every month, or every pay period, I should say. Every pay period, somebody gets a deduction, not a deduction, but a cost, if you will, associated with that, as Oscar said, 51009 account. If you add up all of those 51009 accounts right now, as of the end of February, they would probably be $700,000 or $800,000, because it's got to be a little bit over the halfway mark for the medical claims deduction. Now, the actual medical claims are elsewhere. They're paid for somewhere else.
And maybe, and we don't want to belabor this, but maybe what we need to talk about is that the city of Calexico is not a usual setup as most cities. Most cities have Blue Shield or Blue Cross or whoever it is, and you pay a premium to them. We are self-insured.
Excuse me, I don't want to waste my time. Okay, look, that was our report. Last year, we spent this time, we paid the $2 million for the medical insurance.
No, we didn't.
And this time, the region's there. The report was there. And then this year, we only paid the $700,000 up to now. I don't know, you said I'm not knowing about the how fund working, but I know how to pay. I run my business. And we paid the $700,000 only.
Are you self-insured, sir?
Beg your pardon?
Are you self-insured, or do you have a plan?
Oh, we're paying the insurance.
Yes. But you
Every
have Blue
time
Shield.
the bill comes in, we pay.
You have Blue Shield or something like that.
That means we don't have a claim of a $700,000 only.
We have claims, and we also have to self-insure ourselves. We
Well,
have to set
I have
aside.
another report saying that they didn't implementing, that we spent the $1.3 million for the insurance.
Yeah, maybe we need to sit down and talk about it, because I don't know what report you're looking at, but again, I think the issue is that, as John was trying to explain, that being self-insured, we don't have a carrier. So what happens is we are the carrier. So we have an expenditure in every month we charge off to every department. That money goes into this reserve, okay? That reserve is then used to pay the claims. Which we pay the claims.
Yeah.
We own the fund. Okay. So there are expenditures, and I guess we'd have to take a look at the report, but if you look at the February report in the expenditures, there is expenditures every month for group insurance.
Okay. They have two reports. That's what my concern. One report here say we paid $1.3 million. Probably like what you said, we presented some money, some other reserve. From there, we issued a check to pay them. But each individual sector, each individual fund, we're not reconciliating that account. So that account we left over only 700. When we pay someone, we have to put in the book. We have to put in the book, and they're not in there. But on the other side, they paid from the other fund $1.3 million for the insurance.
Okay,
but
maybe we can discuss it a little further. But I think the issue is that that there's, again, we're self-insured, which means there's claims and there's premiums. There's expenditures to every department that go into the reserve fund, and then out of that reserve fund, we pay the claims.
My question is, we not have current actual numbers in the book. That's my main concern.
Yeah, and
I'm not saying someone took the $1.3 million away from us.
Yeah,
I'm saying is my concern is we are not have number in our book.
Yeah.
Can you help me to understand one more time why you feel that that's happening? because you showed us this, but I didn't understand what this was. Why are you reasoning that?
Okay, that one for the one report, $2 million from the last year.
I believe it's probably looking at claims.
The
Our
fund,
claims
okay,
are about
that
$2 million.
all the insurance funds, the fund from there, all insurance pay from there. So whatever we pay, we write down there. We're supposed to write down how much we pay. We're gonna pay for the workers' comp how much. We're gonna medical insurance how much. We're gonna pay for the dental insurance how much. All the paying is supposed to be in there.
Yeah, and it's right here. That's what they were trying to point out to you, that it comes out from each individual department's report, like we were looking at. That's where the expense is coming out from. But I still don't understand the relationship between last year and this year and why you feel that it's not getting recorded accordingly. I don't understand why you're having
because they have another report here, the $1.3 million, we spent it. So this book is spent, we spent only $1.3 million, and the other book we only spent $700,000.
Who provided this report to you, this check register distribution?
Ricardo.
Who?
Ricardo, Mr.
Ricardo?
Quinn was there when I was requesting.
Who's Ricardo?
Ricardo Reno?
Oh, Richard Reno?
Yes,
Oh,
Richard
okay.
Reno, yeah.
Richard Reno is producing this report for you?
The first time when they pulled that one out, they don't show the number of the expenditures. He pulled this one. Then it's a lag of the put. That should be in record on there, whatever here.
You use a different fund? Yeah. Okay. I think that there's what John is telling me, we're using a different fund now, so it's not in there. It's in a different fund. But I will guarantee you that our claims are going to run around $2 million.
Yes, I understand. I'm not saying the money was out there. I mean, I'm saying is we don't have a proper bookkeeping hours. So what we have here in front of us is not real number. We're supposed to approve it. And I have another one here. Not only that one.
Councilman Kim, you know, this is a claims distribution report, but it isn't part of the payroll. You have to put all of these things together to figure out where you stand. You can't look at one number. You can't look at an obsolete fund. You have to know what's on these sheets. And I think in the future, it would be much better if you would come to my office. I'd be more than happy to explain what this is, what the fund report is. I'd be more than happy to explain that to you. I think bringing it out, just popping this thing out, is not making any of this very productive.
Well, it's a productive because we need to fix the problem. That's a productive.
Well,
I'm here. I'm not here to give you a hard time. I'm not here to give the hard time to the city manager. My job is to protect our public's interest. We have a right process or not. We don't. I got another one here. We got totally about gasoline. We spent 3 months for the police department. We spent around almost 30,000, probably 25,000 we spent it. And our expenditure here, page 14, show up about 10,000. You see, a lot of things not in the actual numbers in here. That's my main concern.
Mr. Kim, if we saw any of these accounts going beyond a range or beyond parameters, we would bring it to the council's attention. We produce a monthly financial report, and it has certain parameters. And yes, they're very high level and very broad, but we still go through the detail every month, and if the detail shows an aberration of some sort, we will be the first to tell you. We are not hiding anything. I have nothing to hide. I have nothing to gain from that, and I'm not going to be accused of it.
I didn't accuse anything.
Yes,
you
you did.
are.
No, I said we're not in correct numbers in our budget.
Okay.
I didn't say, I'm not saying you're the hiding something. I'm saying is we're not having right numbers in front of us.
I think that the council at this point would appreciate if we stick to the subject. You did, in fact, make a comment at the last meeting that it appears that our staff is creating double books. You did make that comment.
Yes.
And I do apologize for that comment. It's very inappropriate. It's uncalled for. And it's demeaning our staff. And I myself don't appreciate that. So if we could focus again and avoid the slandering and the accusations. We're here as professionals.
Our number is not correct, that's why.
All right, Councilman Kim,
yes.
I have the undue respect for you, your concerns, but actually I have to say this, we're beating a dead horse here. It's become
Thank
very
you.
redundant, sir. I duly note your concerns, but I don't think we can answer it at this time. So maybe we can at another time. If
Well,
it
Mr.
calls
Hodge,
for- Kim,
respectfully, I don't agree with you.
This.
Last time we already bring the issues, and this time they don't have any changes. That's my concern. If they,
Mr.
I
Kim,
can
what do you want
understand.
out of them right now? He's not going to grovel. You don't want that. You've made your point. You've made your point, sir, and I'm very concerned about those. So we'll follow up in some way, but the point has been made, sir, over and over again. And I respect your point. I do, but I have a headache.
Yes, and we don't want you to have a headache, Mr. Hodge.
Well,
So could we come back and ask, come back into the agenda as it is and ask the questions that you were prepared to ask today?
well, my main concern is we have to have board, the city council member, we have to prove the right number. That's my main concern.
But
Duly
this coun-
noted, sir.
Right.
Okay, my right number. It's not the right number.
What the council also needs to do is to ensure that we also follow due diligence, and it appears that you have conducted quite a bit of background research with
Yes.
other staff members, other than our finance director. The remaining balance of the council has not had that opportunity. So honestly, this whole time, I don't understand what you're saying. And so I believe that our finance director understands it, but Mr. Hodge and I are having trouble understanding your concept. So
Oh, you don't
today
understand my
was a
concept?
special meeting to ask questions with regard to the content. However, we, as far as what I understand from Mr. Hodge and myself, believe that we need to stay professional with the line of questioning. So if you'd like to move on, you have any other questions?
Well, my point is, I respect what he's saying, but how many times do we have to repeat it?
Right.
I don't know what can come from this right now. And I'm not dismissing his concerns. Believe me, Mr. Kim, but now we're just going around in circles. So duly
it's not the
noted,
circus,
sir.
'cause
Duly
they are the
noted,
ones
but
who's,
you're
going
not
on
going
and
to get
on.
answers right now, sir.
Okay.
I have another one. We have another monies. We have, I believe, the former staff of the city employee explained me the indirect cost, water, sewer, airport, and refuse. We collect the money, and then we bring into our account we pay them, and a certain portion we profit or whatever to left over with us. But how we handle on those?
I would
And-
like to interrupt you just to ask, because you keep mentioning that you have information from certain staff members.
Beg your
I think it's important for the rest of the council to understand, are you having this information from clerical staff, from the accountant?
No,
Because
no,
it's not coming from the finance
What
director, because I
I'm
think it's
saying,
important
I'm
for us
not
to understand.
understanding our budget. So what is, we have a different budget, the water bill, and those kind of the way we collect the money from the people, but we're gonna running for ourselves.
Don't understand.
So we are the one. I like to see those all the activities in here, and that activities is not showing on the budget books.
Councilman Kim, the activities of all the utilities are in that revenue and expenditure detail. If you look in the 550s, the 510, 11, 531.
550, 510.
531, 540,
You're talking about the cash balance report.
revenue and expenditures in the detail report.
I apologize, this has gotten way beyond control here, but can you meet with Mr. Kim? I mean, we both need to learn, and his concerns are legitimate, but maybe in a
Well-
quiet atmosphere, you can
Well,
point these things
Mr.
out.
Mr.
Hodge.
Hodge, I disagree, because we were asked to come here for a special session.
Why I have to meet the? Why I have to meet the? Why I have to meet the
everyone should be
Mr. Quinn
prepared.
separately?
We
The
all took
public
the time.
has the right to know.
Mr. Kim, I'm the chair, please.
And the other councilman has the right to know.
Mr. Kim, I'm going to give you the opportunity to speak, okay? Please. We are here already, and we already took the time. And as you know, this is something that is very difficult for me at this point too, but I'm here. So why would we wait for another meeting? This
No,
is,
not another meeting.
as a matter of fact, we have a
Madam Mayor, you
recording.
didn't understand me. Have Kim go in his office and discuss these
Yes,
things.
that should have happened then in the first place, instead of calling all of us to come into this. Right.
Not saying that.
No, I'm saying, I'm contesting the fact that we're here in the first place.
Well, no,
Because
I
as
don't-
far as what I'm looking
I disagree. I
at,
think this is fruitful, but
the
it's not.
questions have been extremely basic, where it could have been just a meeting with you. That's my opinion.
So it looks like the rest of the city council members, they don't want to know what's going on here.
Don't assume that, Mr. Kim, please.
Yeah, but they
That's
said,
the
well, I have
problem.
to go myself to talk, discuss with him, since we have
You were doing
council members
fine.
sitting here.
You were doing fine, Mr. Kim, until you started accusing. You don't need to do that. Let's stay
No, I'm not
above
accusing
that.
anything. I'm just saying it's not right numbers here.
Okay, so
I'm telling the
would
fact.
you like to go back to your
Duly
questions,
noted,
Mr. Kim?
Mr. Councilman Kim. Duly noted.
Let's go back to your questions, Mr. Kim.
Duly noted, Councilman Kim.
I really don't understand our council members 2001.
We don't understand you either, Mr. Kim.
Okay?
And in many ways.
Our duty is to clarifying all the issues to make
Okay,
our
Mr. Kim,
financial.
let's go ahead and
Can I finish? Can I finish,
Let's
please?
stick to the subject, sir. I am the council.
Yes.
It is my position and my responsibility as the chair of these meetings to ensure that the public comes to organized
Yes.
and productive meetings. And at this point, we
Yes.
are not productive, sir.
This
You
is
need
perfect.
to.
That's your opinion.
You need to move on,
Excuse
because
me.
if you do not
you cannot
move
run
on,
the meeting by your opinions.
you need to
You
listen
you
to
cannot
me.
run the meeting by your opinion only.
Mr.
Okay?
Kim,
I have a right to ask
am
you, and
going
then you
to
just
ask
keep
that you
interrupting
come to
interrupting into me.
You are also
Okay?
interrupting, Mr. Kim, but there is.
No, I don't. You
There
don't
is
want
a
to
democratic process where there is a chair of every meeting, and you need to respect the chair. And the chair at
The
this time
chair
is
has to
asking
respect
you-
the members too.
The chair at this time is asking you to stay on
Don't be
focus
dictator, okay?
and asking you to go back to the focus on the question.
That's what I'm doing is just
Please.
interrupting.
Please, sir.
Okay?
Please do so.
Don't interrupt, please.
I will when I need to because I am the chair. I am
Okay?
sorry.
Oh, wow. Your queen is here.
I'm
Don't
very
you
sorry,
remember
Mr.
the
Kim.
retreat, Mr. Kim?
Yeah, you obviously forgot.
All right, Councilman Kim, go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt.
Indirect cost, we have a water bill and all those things is not showing up at our budget. That's another issue. And I like to know what is going on here. And our gasoline bill is still the same issues. A lot of our budget is not the number here.
Do you have a copy of the budget?
Yes.
The water bills are in the budget. They're in the
Yes, copy of the
detail.
budget, but we are we're not approving the budget. Right now, we're talking about the expenditure in of February.
Councilman Kim, the budget was approved September 27th last year.
Okay?
And that budget has utilities in there, revenue and expenditures.
Yes.
What's your question?
What is my question? What is my question up to February expenditure, how much it is?
In the monthly report, we are showing in the detail, if you look in the detail, I mentioned the funds earlier. 5, 10, 11, 54, 55, 31, all of those 550 series, that's all utilities.
But whatever your budget, February budget, you gave us number, I see
There are
a
numbers
lot
there,
of
sir.
numbers not correct. That's why I'm questioning.
I'm sorry, I can't understand you. You really should come to my office and let me explain it to you.
Well, that's a good idea.
I thought we were going to be very much more prepared. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry we're not prepared today. Does the balance of the council still want to continue with line of questioning, or should we? I'm sorry?
Not done. They just want to try it. They just keep on saying this. There's two council members that are stopping me, say they're not going to understand. That I'm rude with them. It's an incorrect number. They don't want to see what's the fact in here.
I understand that. I
So
respect
why
what
we
you're saying.
my one of the bothering me, we had this one last meeting, and we postponed it to have an explanation, and I expected from them they could be at least showing some intention to get more correct number.
Mr. Kim, do you have-
And they just bring the same copy to wasting our time.
Wow, Kim. Do you have other questions and he can answer them?
Well, they're not going to answer. They're going to just keep on around and around
Mr.
and around.
Kim,
What can we do, Mr. Kim?
Yeah, further. Mr. Kim, if you'd like to continue questioning, if not, I believe that the balance of the council may want to move on. And at this point, it is 8:25. I'm going to ask that you take another 10 minutes tops and take those last 10 minutes, Mr. Kim, and ask your final questions, please.
When I asking, you guys jump on to said go to meet with them. So why I need to ask more?
Thank you, Mr. Kim. Then that is it, right? I would assume. Gentlemen? Mr. Castro? I assume that what Mr. Kim is saying is that we can move on, correct?
Because you guys stop me to asking. Go ask in his office why we want the meeting is a meeting.
So then, in that case, being that the balance of the council feels we should move on, business item number 3, discussion and or acknowledgement of the February 2013 monthly report of revenues, expenses, and cash. Do I have acknowledgement?
I made a motion to not to acknowledge it this time, to
Okay.
bring
Mr.
them,
Kim,
let them bring the.
Mr. Hodge did say that he does acknowledge. Do I have a second
Well,
for
I
Mr.
made a
Hodge?
motion to that, say that you
have
just
to
jump
wait,
in
you
there.
have to wait until the first motion is completed. Do I have a second? Okay, I will second that motion to acknowledge receipt of the finance report of February 2013. As it appears, we have exhausted many questions that we want to ask in public. So please vote for the acknowledgement of the report. Okay, we have a tie, wonderful. So which means that most likely we're going to have a little more debate about this. So Mr. Castro and Mr. Kim, would you like to continue the discussion?
To bring them next to with the correct number.
Mr. Kim, that's a rhetorical statement. At this point, you have been indicated by our finance director that work is being conducted at this time. He has sat here probably about 2 hours worth providing you information as to the status of what is occurring in our finance department and the results that you're looking at in these reports, why they exist, and why the manner in that they exist. So what you're saying right now is an accusation that we don't feel comfortable with at all. I know I don't feel comfortable with your accusations. So I believe at this time, what you are asking for the numbers to be correct is a generalized statement. It's rhetorical, and it's not appropriate. So can you continue your line of questioning to something that's more productive, something that
again,
and we can actually give you an answer, because we want to give answers.
Why you make me talk and then just jump in again? You make me talk and then interrupting.
Because
You
I
make
am
me
the
talk,
chair.
interrupting.
I already told you, Mr. Kim.
Miss Queen.
because-
Miss Queen. Okay?
Mr. Kim, please be professional.
Yeah, you the one is not professional.
Mayor,
Yes.
I don't
I'm going to call for a 5-minute recess. Okay. Do apologize. I'm very sorry about this situation. We do want to go ahead and end our meeting tonight. It appears that we have an exhausted conversation and discussion on item number 3. It appears I do not need to have approval on item number 3. Therefore, being that we have exhausted our conversation and our discussion on item number 3, we're going to go ahead and adjourn.